Hello and welcome. So today I'm going over the 4 sides of the personality for the ENTJ personality type. On the left-hand side, I have all 8 functions, so you guys can reference this at any time if you're forgetting what a function is or you just simply don't know. Here's a quick little cheat sheet. Over here, I have all 4 sides and their function stacks written out. Your ego is who you are, like your baseline personality type. Your super ego is what you front as when you introduce yourself to others, when you're making a presentation, when you're basically putting on a show. You're using your super ego personality type. When you're struggling and your ego can't figure out the answer to a problem, or you're super stressed and you're not sure what to do, your ego will shift into its shadow state, which is the INTP personality for the ENTJ. And lastly, when you're super comfortable, you're in a flow state, kind of everything is working out for your ego. Within your ego, you have your subconscious. It's your first 4 flipped, which is the ISFP personality for the ENTJ. Not everyone is going to see this side of you. Only when you're super comfortable in a flow state will you be in this personality type. On the bottom, I have some tips and reminders. For the ENTJ, they are SI blind and FI weak, and the main loop that they get stuck in is TESE. These people are only about 2% of the population, so they're pretty rare. Not everyone might know an ENTJ personally. You might know of an ENTJ, but knowing them personally is not going to be a majority. The ENTJ personality is an extrovert, and they're led with TE. It is their Dom function. TE is a very proactive and productive function. These individuals have a to-do list, and they're trying to cross off each task sooner rather than later. They don't want to waste any time. They don't really care for chitting-chatting, keeping up with the gossip, seeing how everyone's feeling. They're barely in touch with their own feelings. They're just productive, getting stuff done. Whatever task they have on their to-do list, that is their priority. And it's a very organized to-do list because they have a long-term plan. These individuals are thinking 5 steps, 10 steps, 15 steps in the future. They are considering the here and the now and the reality of a situation today. However, their NI is their parent function. That is going to guide them to create the most streamlined plan for their goals. These individuals are aware of what objective things that they need to complete that day. What do they need to study? What tasks do they need to accomplish? What additional information do they need to gather that's going to assist their plan and create the reality of a situation that they want to live in today? These individuals are no-nonsense people. Not saying that they don't care how you feel, they don't care about what you think and feel about them. They're just not putting that as a priority. If people dislike the ENTJ, they could honestly care less. They're barely in touch with their feelings, so realistically, why would they put yours before theirs? They're not necessarily going to their community to seek feedback. In their eyes, that information is not objective. In their eyes, that information is not going to help streamline into the reality that they want to be living in. NI goes their own way. They don't care to fit into society, to do what you're supposed to do. Point blank, they're blind to the rulebook of life. It's not saying that they don't know what the rulebook is. In order to create the most streamlined plan, NI does need to reference the past conversations, past experiences, past pros and cons of certain dynamics, and understand what worked well for them. What should they repeat? What should they stay away from? They're going to use the information from their past and what society deems, okay, this is the standard of life, as a reference system, but by no means is it a guide. NI goes their own way. They are not prioritizing fitting into reality, doing what you're supposed to do, staying on the path laid out before them. They're trudging through life, creating their own path. They do not care what stands in their way. If they want something in reality, they will figure out how to get there. They're not wasting any time. They understand, okay, if I want to get from point A to point B, I got to be able to cross all of these hurdles, accomplish all of these goals, get this promotion, meet these people, gather additional information to create the best plan possible. And they're not wasting any time. They're not concerned with the gossip. They do not waste time asking every person around them, is this okay? Do you think this is okay? What about this? What do you think about this? Have you heard anything about this? Not saying that information is not important, but to an ENTJ, your responses to how they're living their life is the least of their concerns. So if you're an ENTJ or you know an ENTJ and you've always wondered why you don't fit in, why you just stand out, why you don't care to be well liked in society, why you do not care about your personal reputation within the workplace, it is because you do not care about the current society standard. You're focused on your own goal and you're going to get it done as soon as possible. Now, ENTJ, you might be a little bit too productive at times. You're already known as the workaholic. You're already known as the focused workaholic because NI is going to help you keep focused. You are not a distracted individual when you have a goal in mind. If you have formulated an NI long-term plan, there's not many people or things in this world that can actually deter you from accomplishing your goals. Yes, it might take some time, but you don't mind putting in in the work. You will get into your TESE loop and work, gather more information, make your reality the best situation. If you need to introduce yourself to more people, gather more connections, have more experiences in reality in order to assist you accomplishing your long-term goals, you will get into your TESE loop and accomplish and do and experience as much as you can, whatever is necessary to reach the reality of your dreams. The one thing I will tell you, ENTJ, is if you do feel like you're doing the absolute most, you're kind of stuck in a loop of, okay, I never really take time for myself. You might be caught up in the objective information, or you might be caught up in all of these new experiences. You might be caught up in a new status, a new promotion, a new title. Regardless of what it is, you just need to go back to your NI-FI loop, which is also in your ego, and kind of get some quiet times, step away from your workload for a minute and reformulate, okay, am I staying true to my plan? And does it actually feel right for me? This new status, this new promotion, I've accomplished so much in my company. I've been able to buy a new house, relocate, gather all of these new SE status symbols, but I'm not sure if that actually feels right for me. Let me just reference my long-term goal and make sure I'm sticking true to what I actually want to achieve in this reality. More often than not, you're going to stay on topic, you're going to stay within your NI long-term plan, but maybe you haven't taken a while to check in with how you actually feel about where you're currently standing in reality right now. You might have just been caught up in the promotions and the high life, partying up. As you're meeting more people, you're going to be invited to more experiences. You might be looking at your social calendar or just your work calendar and realize it's chock full of appointments and meetings, and you realize, okay, I'm not really taking any time, long-term time for me. I need to check in with how I feel. ENTJs, y'all do have a stereotype of lashing out, being very intense, barking out orders, and it is because in reality you understand objectively what needs to be completed right now. So you're going to tell people directives and be like, look, you need to finish this by 5 p.m. today. Don't give me any excuses. This needs to get done. And you might be doing that so much to the point of, have you taken some time to drink some water? Have you taken some time to eat a full meal? Not just like a snack, not just a protein bar here and there, but an actual nutritious meal. Have you actually had 8 hours of sleep in the last 6 months of your life? You need to answer that question because you're not always checking in with how you feel. FI is your weak function. You're not taking a lot of time to review how you feel about a situation. So you could be cranky, you could be hangry, and that's going to lead to you just lashing out. Get this done, do this, do that. I don't care about excuses. Don't talk back to me. Stop wasting my time. Get out of my way. And that's not necessarily the nicest things to say to the people around you. And if your coworkers or employees are talking behind your back, you don't necessarily care about the gossip. You're aware that people are going to have something to say. You kind of understand, yeah, I'm sure they're going to have a response to the situation. I'm sure they're going to have some thoughts for me, but they're not necessarily going to tell them to your face. And therefore you're going to be like, well, unless they actually come to me, unless they actually talk to me about a situation, then I'm not going to prioritize how they feel. And if they offended you, or you're upset that they're always barking out orders instead of asking, hey, how are you? How are you this weekend? How are things? How are you feeling? If you don't actually make a meeting or tell them directly and explain this is why XYZ you upset me, employee, boss, CEO, whoever you are, whatever title you are to this person, they're not going to see it as an objective issue. In their eyes, they don't care because gossip is going to be gossip. So unless it's actually interfering with the work and they're unable to actually complete their objectives that day, they're not going to prioritize that information because in their eyes, it's the last thing that they're considering. Even though they have a long-term plan, they are focused and in touch with reality right now. They can understand your status. They can understand how you could possibly help them. Are you a possible stepping stone for them to complete their goals? They will utilize all that information and create a to-do list to get whatever they want done as fast as possible. These individuals are productive. They're proactive. They're not going to waste any time. They're not going to wait for someone to tell them, okay, you can start now. If they have a long-term goal and they can see how it can come into reality for them, they're going to start with step 1 today. So ENTJ, if you're overworking yourself, don't forget to check in with how you feel. Check in with your sleep schedule or your sleep score because you probably like the data, so you most likely have one of those smartwatches. Are you actually getting more than 5, 6, 7, preferably 8 hours of sleep every night? And how was your sleep? Were you restless? Were you actually getting into REM multiple times? Analyze that information and figure out, okay, if I actually want to complete my long-term goal, which is for the long haul, it's not going to be a short-sighted goal that they want to accomplish. You need to feel your best for as long as possible. So prioritize prioritize rest, prioritize eating nutritious meals, aside from just a protein bar here and there, because you have a to-do list a mile long. You're in this for the long haul. So if you're looking drained, you look tired, you're just not really feeling your best in reality, it's going to show, and you do not want that. You care about your image, you care about how people see you, but in order to complete your goal, you do need to make sure you're living your best life in reality. I understand you're just working long hours, but prioritize your reality as well. How you feel in any given situation matters, even though you're not really checking in with yourself. Maybe put a little sticky note on your monitor and ask yourself every day, have I drank water in the last hour or two? Have I eaten a meal in the last 3 to 5 hours? Create to-do lists for your wellness and your happiness, as well as whatever you need to be productive with today in reality. Whatever objective things you need to get done, you also need to focus on how you feel. So when you first meet an ENTJ, they understand in reality, introductions are important. First impressions are important. So they're going to have a super big smile on their face. They understand in reality what you're actually supposed to do. Ask people, hi, how are you? How are you doing today? It's great to meet you. Small talk is important for the majority of the population, and they're aware of it. Your first impression of them is a priority to them, and they're going to falsify their personality in order to achieve their goals. They understand how society is working. They understand that the majority of people enjoy small talk, want to be checked in, want to be cared about, want to be questioned. They understand the majority of people want to share their opinions, their thoughts, their feelings, more than being told what to do in a situation. So when you first meet an ENTJ, they're not going to come off as demanding. They're not going to come off as a know-it-all. They're not going to come off cranky. They're going to come off caring. They're going to come off kind. They're going to come off as what you're supposed to do in any given situation when you're fronting and putting on a show. They're going to smile wide, ask you questions, check in with how you are in reality. Oh, how was your vacation last week? Well, how was that experience? Oh, do you recommend it? They're going to request feedback from individuals around them because they understand that's how the majority of people work. Other people want to just talk about themselves rather than being told what objectively needs to be done. So FE is going to be the most prominent function, and even though that they're sticking to their plan because they understand, oh, I need to be introduced to this person, I need this person as a connection in order to reach my goal, not saying that they're going to use those people as a stepping stone, but they understand to most of society, people use people to get what they want, and they have no shame doing what the society standard is. They're like, oh, if everyone else is going to play this game, oh, best be sure I'm going to do it as well. It's going to help them expedite their long-term goal, get into a reality that they want to live in. So they're going to front, they're going to smile, they're going to fake it till they make it, because in this reality, that's how it works with the population of people here on planet Earth. So if you're an ENTJ or you know an ENTJ, and if you think back to the first time you met them, yeah, they're going to be kind, caring individuals. They asked you questions. They asked you for feedback. They asked for your opinion on whatever topic y'all were talking about. They cared enough to inquire your mind, your thoughts, your feelings. They were curious about those things. But they're not going to do that for long. As soon as they've completed that introduction, as soon as they've got that connection, they have moved on back to their ego and they're like, all right, so everything is going according to plan. I now met that person. We have a meeting on our books for next week. We're going to accomplish XYZ when we meet up next. And they're going right back to their ego. These individuals, they're not faking it till they make it forever. But when they're meeting new people, putting on a show or presenting something to the masses, oh yeah, they're going to use FESI, whatever the current standard in reality is, how people are supposed to introduce themselves, how they're supposed to smile, act caring, be considerate, do the small talk. Oh yeah, they're going to get it done. And they don't necessarily care if later on you realize, okay, that's not how this person really is. That's not who they really are in reality. They're a very demanding, blunt, abrasive individual, but they already have you as the connection. The meeting is already on their books, and in their eyes, they're like, well, I did whatever I needed to do to get there. Not my fault you didn't play the system to your advantage. You have that opportunity. If you understand that's how society works, you should go ahead and start doing that as well. They have no issue with that playbook, and they're going to play it whenever it works best for them to complete their goal. Best believe they're going to put on this front every given time. Now, when the ENTJ is super struggling, they're going to shift into their shadow state, which is the INTP personality type. Their ego is an extrovert, so they're always out in reality, accomplishing things, doing things, talking to people, getting stuff done. They're worker bees. But sometimes their to-do list is way too long. Maybe they're not actually sure how they're going to complete this goal, how they're going to get to this place in reality that they want to be. They understand they have a plan to get there, there. They're always collecting objective information to get something done, but maybe they don't fully understand the concept, the issue, the problem at hand. They were so focused staying busy, they were so focused on their current status, the current standing in reality. Even though they have a long-term goal, they might have been a little bit distracted and confused and uncertain about actually the problem at hand. And when that happens, instead of being always in reality, a worker bee constantly pulling long hours at work, they might take some more time to themselves to process the information to actually understand the full, complete problem at hand. Maybe there's a small issue at work that keeps popping up and they're frustrated that they keep having to take time to focus on this issue instead of staying true to their long-term plan. So they already have the objective information, but maybe they don't actually fully understand the issue. Maybe they don't fully understand how it all comes together, how all of these different processes actually can lead to possible bottlenecks that's going to slow them down. And instead of getting super frustrated just working on the next thing, okay, let me just cross off the next thing on my list, they're going to shift into their shadow and kind of recluse themselves away for a short amount of time because they need to get back to their long-term plan and standing in reality. They don't want to be in their shadow for long. No one wants to be in their shadow for long, but until they fully understand the issue, until they fully have that framework of how to actually solve this without any possible bottlenecks in the future, they're going to take some time to process some additional information. INTPs are perceiving this world thinking about all of the possibilities, but they understand you need to review the current standard of reality, what is the system at play, how to best use it to your advantage in order to complete something done. They understand there's steps required, that there's a system at play in order to fully understand a concept or topic at hand. So they need to gather all of the information, see how it's all connected, where does the overlaps, what patterns are at play, and they're going to just take some time for processing. So maybe you know an ENTJ and they're always at work, pulling long hours, doing the most, introducing themselves to the people with the most status and the standing in the room that they're standing in. Maybe you've noticed that they're taking their work home with them, that they're actually taking some time to be alone with their own thoughts. They need to fully understand, what do they think about this situation? Are they frustrated? Are they fine with having bottlenecks? What is the issue at play? How do I actually solve this? What are the steps I need to take to actually resolve this for the long term? Because long term, they want to just focus on their plan. They don't want to be focused with all of these tedious little problems popping up here and there. So to be their best self in their ego, to be the most productive that they possibly could be, they need to fully understand the situation at hand. So TI is not afraid to ask for feedback from their community. Hey, this person, you're an expert in this field. Can you give me a rundown? Can you educate me on this system at play? I need to fully understand why I keep running into these issues, why I keep having these problems. Can you explain it to me so I fully understand this topic? They're going to go to their community and then take some time alone to process that information so they fully understand this thing, this process, this system. So if you know an ENTJ or you're an ENTJ and you've noticed they've kind of reclused themselves away, instead of being social, in your face, demanding all of these things, they've taken some time to stay alone, do their own thing, stay indoors, kind of be quieter than they normally are, then that means that they're probably struggling with something. There's a problem that they can't figure out. There's a problem that has frustrated them to the most extreme extent, and simply they're struggling. Well, that's just them and their INTP personality. They're just trying to process the most amount of information that they possibly can. They want to shift back to their ego and be as productive as they possibly could be. But right now they have a problem and they don't understand the issue, so they're going to figure it out before they shift back into their ego state. So ENTJ, if you're listening to me, you realize your community and their feedback does matter, because once your ego is struggling so much, you're going to shift into your shadow and you are going to rely on them when need be. Yes, you baseline care about your community when you're first meeting them. You're asking questions to figure out, how can I use the people around you? How can I use them as stepping stones? How can I use them to get whatever I want done within this reality? But when you're struggling, you don't understand a system at play, you don't understand how something works, your community also can come in clutch. So don't be afraid to lean on your community for some feedback, because they can provide you with some good understanding, good information in order for you to process and have a full framework on this topic. So realize all functions are useful, whether you actually think that they are in any given moment or not. They will balance out your framework or lack of framework in any area of your life. Now, when the ENTJ is in a flow state, let's say everything is going according to plan and you're gaining more status and you have a better standing in reality and you're just completing your to-do list every single day, you're now in a comfortable state. Everything is kind of working out for you. You're going to shift into your flow state, which is your subconscious. That is the ISFP personality. You're going to be more willing to your family, your friends, your close coworkers to share how you actually feel. You're going to be like, yeah, everything is working out right now. I feel great. Everything is going according to plan. I feel like this goal, once I complete it, is really going to help XYZ, really accomplish XYZ. Whatever it is, you're going to be able to share your most authentic side with your close people around you, your close circle, or just be super in touch with your feels. Maybe you want to create some art. Maybe you want to just dance around your house listening to your favorite album. You just want to vibe out. You just want to chill out. You just want to feel good in reality right now. Instead of being so narrowly focused on your long-term plan, you're considering, okay, what feels great today? What do I feel like eating today? Maybe I'm going to cook for myself. I'm going to work on this painting that I haven't touched in 3 months, 3 years, because I've been so narrowly focused on my long-term goals that I haven't really given any time to be kind of creative, show my artistic self to the people around me, or just be me in that moment in time. You're going to be your true authentic self, be in touch with your long-term values and beliefs, be in touch with how you actually feel in reality right now. But you're not always going to be in this side, because not everything goes according to plan at all given times. So you're not always going to be vibing out in reality. It could be just for an afternoon. Maybe it could just be for a weekend. You take a short little vacation, not focus on your long-term plan, not focus on your to-do list, and just, you know what, I feel like going to a resort this weekend. I feel like going to a day spa today. I just want to feel great today in reality right now, and that's going to be my priority. But once you come home from your spa day, you're going to review your to-do list for the next day and get back to working on your long-term plan. So not everyone is going to see you kind of let your guard down. Not everyone is going to see you vibe out in reality. Not everyone is going to see the fact that you take breaks from time to time and get back in touch with your creative side, your artistic side, more of your imagination. You're not always going to share that side with the people around you. It's only going to be a select few that actually see, oh, they can be sweet and cuddly and all things lovely. Oh, they can be kind of chill. They could just go with the vibes instead of constantly like doing. You're going to be like, no, I just want to be a lazy bag of bones. I just want to binge an 8-part series on Netflix. I just want to listen to this album on repeat, cook a meal for myself that tastes really, really good, has all the best flavors, all the fresh produce. I'm going to do whatever's best for me right now because that's what I feel like doing today. But you're not going to be in this side for long because unfortunately shit hits the fan more often than not. Things don't go according to your long-term plan. In reality, there's always more things to accomplish in this world, and therefore you're not always going to be vibing out for the long haul. But your close circle is going to see that side. When everything is working out, you're in a flow state, people are going to be like, wow, I had no idea this is how they truly felt. I had no idea this made them feel great in reality. I had no idea that this is what they prioritized when everything was going according to plan. So when you're on the ISFP side, yeah, you're going to have a slower pace in reality. You're going to kind of focus on yourself, focus on your feelings, because these functions are within your ego. They're a part of you at all given times. You're just not always prioritizing how you truly feel. But when things work out, your to-do list is done, your long-term plan is coming together, and in reality, you're content with your current standing right now, yeah, you're going to focus on you and your feels and whatever feels right in that moment in time for you. So ENTJ, if you look, you're utilizing all 8 functions, and every function matters whether you actually believe it should be a priority or not. Yes, your ego, you have a whole stack, and yes, there is a priority system within you. However, every function can be useful. Each one of them can give you objective information for you to best complete your goals in life. Each function matters, so don't forget that. So ENTJ, thank you for watching. I hope this video brought some perspective. If you want to leave a comment and share your own feedback or your experience in the comments below, I'm sure all of us would appreciate that information. Thank you again for giving me your time and watching this video, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.